As a gentleman from Florida, Mr. Gimenez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, when you say that you want the military to have standards, high standards, is that for each job classification you are going to be setting the standards that that job classification merits?
Sure. So if you're looking at combat arms, you're going to have a certain set of standards there that are very important.
And that anybody who meets that standard is qualified to have that job, whether it be male, female, whatever race, political affiliation, et cetera.
That is we've made that clear from day one, that those jobs are open to anybody that can reach the standard for that particular job. It shouldn't be lowered for any reason.
Fair enough, but are you, when you're setting these standards, are you going to make sure that they don't set artificial barriers for entry for anybody? In other words, if you don't want a particular race or gender, you're going to set standards that kind of, push them away? Or are you going to be fair in setting your standards?
The only thing that matters in the setting of standards is the capability to do the job.
Fair enough, and I think that that's all we asked for. I'm going to transition a little bit, and you're saying about peace through strength. Our doctrine is peace through strength, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the only way that really that works is if your enemy knows that you will use that strength. Is that correct?
Yes, credible and capable matters.
And would you say that if you are ambiguous about using that strength, that actually invites not peace but war?
Well, I think, sir, there are certain environments where strategic ambiguity is an important thing, but for the most part, your enemy or adversary needs to know you are capable and willing to use force if necessary. Yes,
Fair enough. Would you consider Russia and China to be allies?
Unfortunately, especially under the previous administration, the Biden administration, policies have driven Russia and China into an even greater alliance, yes.
And so would you consider that anything that benefits Russia and its aggression would also benefit China?
I don't know that I would agree with every characterization of that statement, but certainly if you're benefiting folks that are on the same side, that matters.
Fair enough. Now, I commend you and the Trump administration for pushing our allies, our NATO allies, into defending more of Europe. In other words, it's their responsibility. They have a bear in their backyard. They need to understand they have a bear in their backyard, and that they need to protect themselves from that bear. But if that bear gets out of hand, will the United States come to its aid?
Sir, the goal of this administration is peace in Ukraine, and there's no doubt about that, and we understand who the aggressor is in that scenario.
I'm not talking about Ukraine. I'm saying if the bear, okay, and we are NATO, we're a part of NATO, okay? If the bear starts getting out of hand and we're part of NATO, will the United States, fulfill its duties under NATO's obligation?
Well, Article 5 is a real part of NATO. We acknowledge that, never have not. But at the same time, we have been very aggressive in reminding Europe it is responsible for its defense. No, that's not a small thing. Because the previous administration allowed.
I'm not saying it's a small thing at all. Okay, I agree with it. The NATO nations need to be more involved in their own defense. I agree. They need to bear a big portion of that defense. But we're part of an alliance.
But increasingly, not just a bigger part, but the lead of their defense on the continent, 80 years on after World War II. The belief of this administration is that European countries ought to be able to build credible capabilities that the bear fears and worries about, not a continual backstop reliance on the United States of America for decades and decades and decades. And that's why a 5% commitment for European countries is a huge focus for this administration that only President Trump could have achieved. Because in a world of a lot of threats, you can't just continually stay in the same posture in the same places for the same reasons of the last 80 years. So we're encouraged by the investment of
I've only got
European
a certain amount of
allies.
time. I need to put this out, okay? I believe, like when we started out this conversation, okay, that it's imperative that that bear knows that, yes, Europe needs to protect itself, but that the United States will also demonstrate peace through strength in order to keep the peace in Europe, and I yield my time back.
Gentlemen,